Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Talking Labor on KJOY 98.3. I hope you're enjoying your early Sunday morning, and I'm sure that those of you that have very little to do are tuning into my show. But we'll have and those that do tune in actually have been enjoying it because it's not about me, obviously. It's about the guest. And we've had some great guests on the show, and we've discussed everything. Now, we call the show Talking Labor, but we talk about everything but labor half the time, and we get involved with local politics and issues that affect life here on Long Island. The best guest I've ever had is with me today. I'm a little partial because I'm a lifelong Met fan, and we'll get into that later. That's been torture in some ways, but it's been the greatest thing. But I have a legend in front of me as far as I'm concerned, someone that I consider as, when I was growing up, a hero, and still do. And that's, of course, our number 7, our first baseman from the 69, well, actually from the 62 Mets, Ed Kranepool. Welcome, Ed.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, and so, I mean, let's get right to it. I know that you, if you don't mind talking about it, you just went through quite an unbelievable hurdle in your life, right? Aside from being baseball and everything else, you're not a young kid anymore, right? So either am I. Tell us about what you just went through.
Well, actually, I went through a second miracle. The Miracle Mets in 1969, we won the championship. A lot of people didn't expect us to, and this past year I was very fortunate to get a kidney donor, donated a kidney to myself, and I just went through surgery 5 weeks ago, and I'm out and about and functioning well, and the doctor, Dr. Darius, did a great job for me, and I'm going to be there for the reunion at the end of the month, and I feel very, very good right now, and I'm just recuperating. I
got to tell you, and I don't know you personally, but I have seen you, like, in the last 6 months, I've seen you 3 times at a couple of events, and you look like you've been regenerated here. Your color is better. You've got that sparkle back in your eye. You look like you've been reborn.
I've got a skip. I'm moving around pretty good, and that was the reasoning for the kidney. Both of my kidneys were failing, and we knew we had to make a move. Otherwise, dialysis was going to be, in the future, and that's a tough procedure to go through 4 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week. But I was very fortunate to find a donor, and it was like a miracle. There was 4 people involved in my operation. We had 2 donors and 2 recipients. I had a couple. A fireman who needed a kidney. He's been on dialysis for 3.5 years, and his wife wanted to donate a kidney to the husband. Unfortunately, it wasn't a match, and it takes a long time to find the right match. It wasn't going to work. My donor, who was a police officer, a young fellow, 45, he was a marathon runner. He wanted to give up a kidney, and he happened to be a match for her husband. So what it was she was a perfect match for me. We both were AB blood, which means we're universal recipients. We can accept anybody's organ. So it didn't matter to me whose organ I was getting, but when it turned out she had an AB, she was not a good match for her husband, but she was for myself, and she was willing to give up the kidney, not to her husband, but to me.
Oh, my God.
If her husband could get my donor. So we made a 4 people involved in the operation. It was
now, wait a minute. When I grew up, I traded you baseball cards.
That's what we were doing. So we traded organ donors.
That's unbelievable.
So we had 2 people that went in first. The 2 donors went in first, and they had the procedure. And 4.5 hours later,
and it worked out.
Then the other 2 went in there, and
so
of course,
your original donor was a match.
Right. I could have accepted anybody's kidney.
You're an AB.
Right, AB, that you could receive anything. So, but I wound up getting her match, which was a perfect match to me.
And even as an AB, it wasn't easy getting a donor, right?
Well, it's never easy to get a donor. I mean, obviously, you're asking somebody to give up an organ. You can only need one to survive, but still, remember, that's life-threatening when you're going in for surgery. It's a 4.5-hour surgery that you're giving up an organ.
And they leave the original ones in there, right? They don't.
Well, for me, they are. They didn't take mine out. I have 3 kidneys now. 2 will shrink up and kind of, wilter away. But as
we get
far
used to that as we get older, but I'm not getting into that.
if you have 3 of them, you could always use one more is okay, but it's not really functioning. Her kidney's working very well, and
wow, God bless.
and not a problem at all. And as far as the donors, they lose a kidney, they lose an organ, so their surgery is a little bit more serious because they have to take something out of themselves. But it's tremendous what they can do. Stony Brook Hospital, who worked on myself, did a wonderful job, and of course, be forever grateful that they were able to put this together. So we wound up with the 2 recipients, 2 donors, and 4 people were saved.
Wow, and it's just, I'm not going to stay on this subject too long, but the ironic part is he just mentioned Stony Brook Hospital, and I have a whole big section of membership that works for Stony Brook Hospital. It's not the doctors, but it's all the aides and the.
Well, they were wonderful people. Yeah. I was in the hospital for 5 days, but they took great care. Yeah, I still have to go back. They're part of my family. They're an extended family now because forever I have to go back be monitored. And I just came out of the hospital today. I was there today, and they take great care. They really treat their patients well out there, and they're learning all the cutting edge things to do with organ transplants.
So, thank God that went well, but I think what the listeners need, because I'm sure there are some people out there that might be going through what you went through, waiting on the list. And there's always hope out there. But, it's not easy, right? Let's face it, you waited a long time, I think.
I waited 2.5 years, and I probably got more publicity than anybody in New York. I was on the front page, the back page of the papers, and
right.
You're looking for the donor.
And
because they have to make everything fit. Everything has to work properly. They're not looking to do this, for a day or 2 or 6 months. They're looking to have the organ outlast the patient. And my doctor, says he expects my organ to last 50 years. So I said, I don't think I need that contract, but we'll see what's going on. But I feel good. I'm only 5 weeks after surgery, and I'm out and about, and I feel pretty good. And every day,
you really
every
do.
day I feel good, and that's a blessing. So it's the second miracle of Kranepool.
That's the
69 was the first one, and we're going to celebrate that at the end of the month. And that was the one promise he made to me. He said, "I'll have you well for the anniversary."
Well, this doctor is good, obviously. Knows what he's talking about.
He's done 1,600 transplants,
oh my
so
God.
It's not his first rodeo.
Wow.
And he's done a great job. And, he loves his patients. He loves what he's doing. And I think that's part of organ donations. That's a different division, than actually just going into the hospital. These people take it serious when they're asking people to give up organs, but it's a way of life. You certainly can help somebody else if you can do it. It's a wonderful thing to see that you've helped somebody else survive.
And I can tell you, in 1992, 93, before I got into any government, I happened to, my babysitter's little girl got sick with leukemia. She was only 2 years old. And we raised a lot of money for her. And what she needed was a bone marrow transplant. Now, bone marrow transplant is not exactly, it is considered an organ, I believe. I'm not sure. But it's not the type of organ like a kidney where you lose it. But to get it, first of all, in order to find an acceptable donor, I'm in that list now since 1992. I'm in the bucket, in other words. And no one's called me yet. That's how hard it is to get a bone marrow. They have tens of millions of people in the registry. And it's almost, so we finally got someone after 2 years, less than 2 years, about a year and a half. And we found a partial match in France. And that's how hard it was. And I remember the struggle, but it didn't work out. The poor girl.
They've come tremendous strides. They've made tremendous strides with all the transplants, et cetera. And I did a program for the Motor Vehicle Bureau where now people, when they get their new licenses, they have to sign up as if they want to be a donor or not, because they found out these programs were antiquated in the way they were doing it. Somebody would have an accident, and you'd have to talk to a family member and ask somebody at that stage whether they want to give an organ up for somebody, because they can use a lot of different parts of the body. And that's a touching time to do that. People have other things on their mind. Unfortunately, if you're going to lose a patient, if you can take some organs and you help somebody else, that's a wonderful thing to be able to do. But it was very tough to ask people at that time. So they figured it now. If people have that in mind to do so and want to become an organ donor, if you sign up for it, you don't have to approach the family, at a tough time. So it makes it easier. And they're hoping for the program to improve because there are many, many people. You can use a lot of different parts of the body. And I think one body can probably save 6 or 7 people. So they take
folks,
everything.
If you get nothing else out of this show, when you re-up your license, there's a little box I think you check.
Check it off if you want to be an organ donor.
I'd like to be an organ donor. And you should do that because you could save somebody's life.
Yeah, it might be part of your family. It could be somebody else's family. But obviously, you have an extended family. I have an extended family now, and I have, 3 extra people out
this
there.
Wonderful lady that did this for you.
Yeah.
And
we're attached at the hip
forever.
now, forever. I'm involved with his wife. I've got another wife now, so it makes it great.
Well, listen, congratulations on that. I mean, that's not even congratulations. That's God bless you.
Yeah, thank you.
And, it means the world, and it's very important today. So someone like you, with your notability, it could be a big plus. You could be a huge help in this area.
Well, I've actually been, we've gotten so much publicity in 2 years. I had 2 hospitals that I was working with. They both called me up and thanked me for the involvement that I've had for the last couple of years, because even though I wasn't getting the kidneys, they had plenty of people that went in for donors. And it helped a lot of people along the way. It's just a matter of getting visibility,
good, right?
awareness, and I'm still going to do things going forward because, you have to be forever grateful that somebody steps up and is willing to give up an organ for you. And I was a total stranger to all of them. Didn't know them before that. Nobody in my family was a match, and nobody I could have gotten a kidney from. And it's great. And anything I can do in the future to help, I'm going to be part of a lot of programs. And we'll give back, and I think that's what you're trying to do.
Well, that's pretty cool, and actually something that you should be, thank you, because people that are in dire need, they don't know where to turn to sometimes.
No, it's very difficult, and you'd be surprised. The firemen, I had a police officer, a fireman, and a wife, and a retired baseball player. The fireman was on dialysis for 3.5 years.
Yeah, that's not easy.
And that was not easy for him, and he looked tired, and then when the kidney came forward, he was one of the first ones up in the morning the next day after surgery. He was running around the hospital floor because that's one of the things they do. They get you up and they want you to move. I was kind of looking like a 95-year-old man. I couldn't
move at all. Can we do this a little later?
And he felt great. I saw him this morning. He's got color in his face.
No more dialysis.
No more dialysis. He's skipping around the hospital. He feels great. He was going back to the firehouse to be with his buddies. He had lost his life. He didn't know if he's going to make his children's graduation
for a certain amount of time, right?
Well, it really takes its toll on the patient, and he looked tired after 3.5 years. But now he was going back to the firehouse and be with his friends and be with his buddies.
Wow.
And he cried when he was leaving the hospital because he said, "I can now go see my children's graduation." He didn't know whether he was going to see that.
Wow.
He had kids in high school, and now he can plan.
So he got a second time. He got a second chance at life.
Well, he did, and it feels good to be part of that program.
Well, welcome back, as they say.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here, believe me. So that's miracle number 2. We'll talk about miracle number 1 for a little bit, and I got to tell you. Well, here's the story with me. I'm 62 years old. So in 1962, I was 6 years old, the Mets' first year. And my father was obviously a Dodger fan, a Brooklyn Dodger fan. So he takes me to the Polo Grounds because Shea Stadium was being built.
Correct.
You had to play there at the Polo Grounds.
I was at the Polo Grounds. I was there for the first 2 seasons.
Now, it wasn't fun to sit
3.
there and watch it. I was only 6. So this is what I remember about the Polo Grounds. It was hot because it was in the middle of summer. It was dusty. Like, there was a lot of smoke and, like, was there no grass on the infield there or something?
No, there was grass, but, it was an older stadium. It hadn't been used for years since the Giants and Dodgers both left, so it was inactive. And, we had to play there. It was an old rickety stadium.
My God. And I remember a pole being right in front of my face.
That's the way they built the old stadium.
Because they didn't have the second. Yeah, they had the ability, the architecture then,
right,
to keep that support going. And so I remember my father saying, hey, you like the game, JB? They used to call me JB. And I said, okay, Dad, but, who's playing? As the Cubs, you were playing the Cubs. He goes, the Mets are playing the Cubbies. I remember him saying that. I think you lost, which...
We had a pretty good shot at losing. We lost 120 games that year, so...
What is that like? I mean, we'll get into that too, but so I'm pretty sure you lost, and it was hot and smoky, which you don't see today anymore. But like I always tell everybody else, if my father would have made a left instead of a right, and he would have went to the Bronx,
he'd have been
I would have had a much
Stadium.
easier childhood. But I'm so glad he went to the Polo Grounds. I spent my whole life as a diehard Met fan. Been through the ups and downs, man. You guys put us through some roller coaster. But your era didn't really. You went pretty quick from 62 to 69.
Well, we lost 100 games for 7 years, so that's a long spell.
That was the first expansion, though, right?
Mm-hmm. It was expansion, but we were the first expansion team to win a pennant. We did it in 1969. We wound up winning 100 games. And, of course, we wound up beating Baltimore in the World Series.
Ooh, pal.
That was a year that was magnificent. The irony about 69 Mets, everyone wants to be around the 69 Mets. They caught the world by surprise. The country was in turmoil. You had the Vietnam War. You had a lot of things happening.
The moon.
The people walking on the moon, and a lot of things happened. And Baltimore is the only city that's not excited about it because the three New York teams, the Knicks, the Jets, and the Mets all beat Baltimore.
I never thought of that.
And, so
that's right.
We're not welcome in Baltimore, really.
No, you're not like that.
So
they don't want
that was a tough year on them. But,
they're not tuning in a couple of weeks to watch?
No, they're not coming to it. I think Brooks Robinson still doesn't want to forgive. And Frank Robinson, of course, even till the day he died, he still couldn't believe that Baltimore got swept by the Mets.
And I was 13 years old by the time you won, by 69. I remember hiding that little white transit because you played day games. That's what it was.
Most of the time, and I think that's the difference in baseball today. We played a lot of day games. The kids could be involved. They took the radios to school, et cetera. And
I got in so much trouble for that, though, because I thought I was hiding. I thought I was fooling everybody with the earpiece and them chintzy little white plastic transit. Right. And, you'd have to keep playing with the round button to keep it tuned in.
You lost the volume.
You lost the volume.
But
at some point, they knew, and I was not paying attention in school because I said the Mets are in the World Series, and we got through to them. I don't remember exactly what. I think I got a little bit of trouble. I didn't care. The Mets were in the World Series, and that's all I wanted to know about.
And people are still talking about it, even though we only held 54,000 at the ballpark. Every time you walk around Manhattan, or any of the boroughs, people will say they were at the ballpark. So it must have been hundreds of thousands of people
millions
that
of people
snuck into the stadium to see us play the World Series, stole the sod, planted it in there.
The sod, remember that?
They planted it in their yards. Everyone's got it, and they all want to talk about it. Doesn't matter. 50 years, people still want to talk about it. Where other years that we've played, they don't even talk about it. They don't bring it up. They don't want to.
The only other year that he comes somewhat close, but not even doesn't touch it, is, of course, Game 6 of the 86 World Series, where
exciting.
Paul Buckner, God rest his soul, and rest in peace, he just passed away.
Yeah.
Buckner. And I thought he was a great ball player.
But who knows how many people saw the ending of the game? I know myself, I was watching the game, and I fell asleep.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know it, my boys were screaming and yelling, and they woke me up.
It was insane.
And I started yelling at them. I got out of my bedroom and leaned over, and I said, "What are you guys yelling about?" I said, "You woke us up. Your mother and I were up." And you know what he said? The Mets won. I fell asleep when the Mets were losing.
They were down by a couple of runs. It was getting late.
It was in the ninth inning, and the next thing you know, so what I'm saying to you is we played in the daytime. Everybody was watching the game.
Yes, that's true.
Kids were watching the games. Unfortunately now, kids can't watch the World Series in the playoffs. They start too late. They start at 8:20 at night. By the time the games are over, it could be 1 o'clock in the morning, or the way that baseball is being played today. So they're losing out on a portion of their fan base. And unfortunately, it affects the game. I think attendance is down this year. I think it's finally catching up, where they got to do something to speed up the games, start them earlier, do something so that the kids can really watch the game, because they're the ones that bring the parents out all during the year. Playoffs and World Series, that's a different story. That's a businessman's culture. They come out and they take
the corporate
their clients,
guys.
Corporate America. During the season, the average fan is your local guy that's taking his family out for a night of entertainment. So he's out there. So that we notice it as a player. The crowd reaction during the year is much louder because you have the real fans, and then when you have the executive crowd, they're a little bit more subdued.
Well, they're involved with we hang on every pitch, literally. The real fans hang on every pitch.
Right.
I mean, I'm watching every pitch, and I'm like, oh, come on, that was right in there. What are you doing? This is probably a favorite of the team.
It's their life. They love it. They really work with the players, and it's good for them. But, so I saw the difference, and I was in 2 World Series. But nobody really wants to talk about 73, even though the slogan that my roommate, Doug McGraw, you got to believe, is welcomed all over the place.
Yeah,
right now.
he really made that famous, and
Yes,
he was
did.
another champion and a tough guy, right?
Good guy, a fun-loving guy. He was great to room
Crazy.
with. We had a lot of fun. I had Ron Sabota for a couple of years, and then
Sabota,
Doug McGraw. So we had a lot
Who was
of fun.
the one that kept lighting the sneakers up?
That's the guys from the 86 team.
Oh, that's 86.
Yeah, McDowell.
For some reason, I'm thinking McGraw, but that was McDowell.
That was McDowell. He was having a good time. He was giving those hot foot.
The hot foots.
Hot foot, yeah.
So you mentioned something before about, how the game is played. Let's get into that a little bit. I know, listen, I get it. As a major league ball player, you certainly not here to trash anybody, and I don't expect that, right? But as a fan, I will say, it's definitely not even close to the same game as it was 50 years ago.
Well, I think it's much more relaxed now for the players. Obviously, when they have 5-year contracts, all guaranteed, there's no pressure. When I played, the game was every day. Your livelihood depended on how your performance was, unless you were a superstar. If you were a superstar, you
and that just started
a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, you still only had 1-year contracts. You had to play every year for the next year's contract. So if you were a marginal player and was in a slump, you know, 0 for 10, 0 for 12, they got a good shot at bringing someone else up and putting you in a position where today's athlete, when he's making $30 million like a Harper or Machado, they're not bringing up a kid from the minor leagues to take his place when they got a 10-year guaranteed contract. So he knows he can go out on a game and relax, play the game. 0 for 4 doesn't mean anything because he's going to get another shot tomorrow. Years ago, you had to fight for everything you got, and the game was much tougher. There was so much more pressure on you.
More grit. You guys, I mean, people don't understand, and I do, because I played ball past my 40s, and I never made it, I never tried to make it to the majors, but I know the game, the unwritten rules. The unwritten rules are even tougher than the written rules. Like, you can get beamed in the head, or beamed anyway, by showboating too much. And they don't do that too much. Yeah.
They didn't do it when I played, really. When certain pitches wouldn't stand for it, they would knock you down.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore. These guys are throwing the bats up, and they're trotting around the bases. And
my God.
Tra-la-la. And if you ever did that to Bob Gibson.
I was going to say, do that to Bob. It's a
Don
perfect
Drysdale, name. By the time you ran around third base and were heading towards the plate, they'd be winding up and throwing the next pitch to the first hitter, and you might be crossing the base.
And it was accepted.
And they would do it. They could care less. Well, they'd get you the next time.
They would get you the next time you came up. He would throw 2 balls on the outside part of the plate and get you to lean over a little bit, figuring the next pitch might be outside. Next one's coming right over you by your chest.
Be up and in, and he'd get you back off the plate. And that was part of the game, and you expected it. Now it's a different game.
It's a different game, and I see it as, now we have these this mathematics, or what do they call them, algorithms or whatever. Supermetrics.
Yeah.
And to me, they're ruining the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you have to use those things. I think they're certainly important to have all the analytics that you have and take as much information as you can. But I think you still have to manage the team with a little feeling because, there's the element of the human nature. The guy is involved. You have to know your players. You have to know the situations, who can react to the situations. So the game is more than just numbers. We're not robots out there. You're not going to perform.
Remember when Gil Hodges walked out to left field? And
Gil did a lot of
Jones?
things, and he managed with a feel. his lineup, basically, he loves to platoon and he moved players around.
Yes, he did love the platoon.
But he never surprised anybody. You all expected to, and you knew your role, and you had to prepare for that role because you were going to be put in a situation where, he wanted you to make him look good. You can only make the manager look good or bad, by the player producing for him. But if you're not ready to perform, then you've got a problem. So
they were tough on you, though, right? On a daily. See, they're not today. Our last three managers in New York, I see they have no choice but to coddle these guys a little bit because the management's paying so much money for them.
Well, they're dealing with the agents too. You don't even deal with the players anymore.
That's right.
Deal with the agents. So the game has certainly changed.
Yeah,
no question about it.
Well, you can't.
And a lot of times, from what you read in the newspapers, a lot of the managers are not even making out the lineup. The front office is making it out because of the analytics and, of course, of the contracts. So you can't take some of these guys out. So it's changed. I still love the game. I still follow it. I'm a Met fan. I watch the Yankees also, but my allegiance is in Shea Stadium or Citi Field. I played all those years there, so obviously.
My whole family's Yankee fans, and all we do.
Well, I was brought up in the Bronx, so for a long time I was a Yankee fan, But then, of course, I signed with the Mets when I was 17.
17, right?
I was 17.
I don't think anyone's ever done that.
They don't do it too often. My opening night in the Major League, Sandy Koufax pitched a no-hitter and struck out 13. So I said to Casey at the time, I'm going back to college, Casey. This could be a tough career.
Did he really talk? Let's talk some, because we don't have much time left, but let's talk some things, because a lot of people hear these. Was Casey really like that? He with the sayings that he came out with?
Casey was very sharp. He was 75 years of age, and you thought he was an old man. But
he was sharp.
When I look in the mirror now, I said, "This is the same 75-year-old guy that Casey was."
I say that too. So
he told me, "You got old in a hurry. You can get old in a hurry."
Did he actually say? Did you ever hear him say, "Can anybody in this team play this game?"
You know what? Yeah, he was very sharp. He was sharp. He knew what he was doing. He didn't have the players, obviously.
Yeah.
He had a lot of older players at the twilight of his career back in those days, but he knew how to play, and we respected him, and we enjoyed playing for him. And, he was a great guy to be involved. He had 50 years of his life in baseball. He knew every part of it. And he was a good manager.
So there was I think there was a lot more respect and self-respect too. And there was just more unwritten rules that were abided by because baseball through the decades, starting in the early, the 20s, 30s, 40s as it evolved, that was a tough game. It was
very tough, and the older players would teach the young guys, and you knew your position and you knew your role.
And you keep your mouth shut when you first get on the team.
A lot of times, you didn't make a lot of noise because you just joined the ball club, and you had veteran players that would be the leaders on the team, and everybody knew where you stood on the ball club. So,
what's your best memory as a Met? Let's just say as a New York Met.
Well, obviously playing in the World Series.
That was insane.
One thrill of every player. You loved it. You got involved in it. I was fortunate to be in two of them. And it was
you got
great
up against McNally, and did you get up against?
Well, the Orioles had a great pitching staff. They had 3 20-game winners.
Oh, 3?
We beat them all there. We knocked out Jim Palmer, who was
Cuellar
and McNally. And then the following year they had Dobson. The next time,
I used to cringe when Boog Powell got up because in Baltimore they would all.
They also had the 2 Robinson boys, Frank and Brooks. They were 2 Hall of Famers. They really outmanned us. If you went position by position, they had Hall of Famers. But when we put all players together, we platooned in 5 positions. That
was smart. That was Hodges.
Yeah, that was Hodges. We came out on top, and of course, we were a good ball club.
And what about Al Weiss when he hit that second home run?
Well,
the guy hit 2 his whole life, I think.
He didn't hit too many, but he hit him in the World Series. He saved him for the right time, and he's going to be back in the reunion.
He is.
He's one of 12 guys that are coming back. We've lost a number of guys.
Oh, I know. Tough. And I know Bud is not feeling well. I hope he's there. He was a great shortstop.
Yeah, Buddy, I hope gets an opportunity to come in. I think maybe
I met him a month ago.
His son or his daughter is planning on bringing him. Nolan Ryan's supposed to be in.
Wow.
We have a bunch of guys. Tom Seaver is not going to make it. He's got dementia. We have, I think, 4 guys on our team that have dementia, which makes it difficult.
It's sad. It's sad. We are getting older. Listen, I could go on for days with you, But we are running out of time. So everybody listen, Ed Kranepool, second miracle. The man just got a kidney transplant, and he was an original New York Met at the age of 17 and played the 69 World Series. I don't know what else to say. I'm honored to have you on the show. God bless you.
Thank
and
you
everybody sign those donor cards, organ donor cards, because you could save somebody's life, even someone from your own family. See you next week, folks.